Hello, and welcome to another episode of Telling Everybody Everything. Now, it is the 22nd of March. I'm recording on a Sunday because I'm filming the last 3 episodes of Series 3 of What's My Age Again. We have just completed our 3rd series, which is launched now. You can listen to the first episode with Jimmy Carr. It has been an incredible experience inviting celebs to give us their blood and testing their biological age. And if you would like to listen to me on a podcast that is powered by Bauer Media, that has producers, that is properly lit, properly filmed, properly researched, we have an actual doctor, Nicola Conlon, on the podcast, then that's the one for you. Otherwise, keep tuning into this shit show. Bobby and I went to Tenerife with the children. We didn't even talk about that on the last episode because we launched straight in to the Manosphere, and I can't wait to read your emails about my reaction to that, because on socials, well, it's kind of, this is how it goes with me. There are people who really understand the slightly provocative angle that I was coming from. I think there were a lot of people, quote, disappointed, which is such an annoying social media buzzword, like disappointed. Well, guess what, baby cakes? Life can be disappointment. And especially when you assign a viewpoint, an agenda, and a perspective to someone that you don't know, you might be disappointed by that, because I'm someone whose opinions shift about things. Yes, I am a strident feminist. Yes, it goes without saying that I think the contributors on the Manosphere documentary by Louis Theroux on Netflix are trash. But it's like there are enough outlets just dunking on a 23-year-old boy. I thought it was more important to have a look at it with fresh, neutral eyes and be like, okay, what do I like about this boy? Like, what, despite all of his misgivings, could I envisage a teenage boy who wants to be successful in the world, who wants to have romantic relationships, who wants to have friends, who wants to be revered and admired? What are these kids liking about the message? And what are they like latching onto before they're taken into a world of like anti-Semitism and misogyny and all the other shit that we don't like about HS tiki-taki? And all I said was, I do come from maybe a traditional mindset of pull yourself up from the bootstraps. So I like the nut up or shut up. I'm sorry, I do. And there are people on Instagram who are like, well, what about mental health services? I even said in the podcast, I said, I'm not suggesting that men should never speak about their feelings. Like, part of nutting up to me is like, hey, you got a problem, nut up and go to the therapist. Like, it takes a lot of balls from a man or a woman or anyone to ask for help. Of course, I think you should ask for help if you need it, but that's part of nutting up. But I can't help but agree with the boomer sentiment that we do seem to have a generation where the increasing, not everyone, but the increasing solution to everybody's problems is to become a victim and to be like, well, I just can't do it. It's like, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it very much in an empowering way. You can. You might be able to. You can certainly, for example, a teenager loves to bed rot. That's fine. I know that about all teenagers. But I had a very punishing work schedule. Not that I'm complaining. I'm very blessed to have my job. But Holland was in a sleep regression. I was sleeping maybe 2 hours a night, and I was also working all day. I did 18 hours in Manchester after coming home at 12:30 a.m. from a corporate. Like, it's just been those kinds of days. Fine. We have a babysitter 9 to 5 during the week. When she arrived, after I'd already been up with the baby, obviously since 5, around 9 or 10 p.m., I said, oh, will you take her to her baby class, which the babysitter normally does because I've had enough of baby classes in my 16 years of being a parent. I said, I'm going to have a rest. And I needed that rest to be able to perform the corporate that I had that evening. You have to be sharp. You have to be alert, or you're not going to be able to read out the awards properly or do your stand-up well. And then that hurts everyone. That hurts my agency. That hurts the client. That hurts me professionally. So I was like, I'm going to go have a rest. Fine. I laid in the bed and I couldn't really sleep, but I doom scrolled for a while. And that was restorative. I might have fallen asleep for like 20 minutes. But at a certain point, I decided I could keep doing this, or I could just get up and start my day, have a shower, fold some laundry. Like, that's a micro example of when I say nut up or shut up, like sometimes I just need to say it to myself. Like, all right, Catherine, not that this was my catchphrase, which by the way is a Woody Harrelson catchphrase somebody told me from a film. It's not original to HS Tiki Taki. But it's like, all right, what are you going to do next? Are you going to lay here, or are you going to go wash your face and like get something done? You've had enough rest. And that works for me. That might not work for everyone, but I do think it gives you a better chance in life than wallowing. So those are the only positives that I was able to gain from the Manosphere. And yes, I did talk about them, and I'm sorry if I disappointed feminists who believe that everything's black and white and I should have just taken them down. There are lots of hilarious takedowns. There's an essay. Ooh, who wrote this essay? I screen grabbed it to read more about it later. It's on Substack, and it's called "The Manosphere is the Gayest Thing on the Internet." Which sounds homophobic on the surface, because it's certainly not, you're gay. It's not bad to be gay. But these men, there are these theories about how men share women and share images of women as a weird sexual conversation with one another. And the point in the documentary when this HS Tiki Taki is showing Louis Theroux a video of himself getting sucked off, like, sorry, like that is arguably quite gay. So Bobby and I wanted to talk about the logistics of the Tenerife experience, which was great. We stayed at a resort called the Abama in Tenerife, which loads of people recommended to me. I loved it. I think it's great, but I still don't know if the luxury resorts that I frequent really do enough to accommodate small children. Like, all I'm asking for everywhere is a heated splash pad. And it's really not too much to ask. Like, shallow water, you can heat it cheaply. The piss helps warm it up as well. Have like a little sprinkler system, a slide. It just goes such a long way. It was a strange time of year to go to Tenerife. It wasn't quite warm enough to be in the swimming pools, but they don't heat the pools. So the children ended up having a great time, but it was just slightly too cold for them. And I don't know how much a splash pad costs, but I believe you could get one erected for about 10 grand. And I just wish more luxury resorts had a little hideaway, because there are posh cafes doing that now. Companies like Pocket Towns, and there's another company on Instagram called Four Little Pigs Interiors. There are companies. Oh, and what was the other company? Oh, we dealt with was it Rhino? No, that's for outdoor. There was an incredible indoor soft play company that I had a consultation with, but they were just way too expensive, and they made everything of wood. And I was like, oh, I don't know how safe that is. Maybe I'll go back to them, actually. Oh, crazy expensive, but I mean, worth it. Good value probably for the luxury product that it is. But there are cafes now with beautiful play centers, beautiful soft plays. It's an investment that I think pays off, is what I'm saying. I'm not a business person, but like, these luxury resorts, there's lots of space, have one little area with a heated splash pad. But I do recommend that resort. It was awesome. On the flight back, and you know what? My attitude toward British Airways was always good. I was a gold member for a while. I'm silver now. I love the flight crew, love the pilots. Can't fault that. Some of the bureaucracy's tricky, the admin, but I think budgets have obviously changed at airlines, and they're changing again with the oil situation. Jet fuel just got crazy more expensive, I read in my news articles. I'm an intellectual now, sometimes. British Airways, I think they're doing what they can, but basically, if you sit in business class, there are customers who expect to get fed. And they bring out a menu at the beginning and they go, all right, today we've got asparagus risotto as the vegetarian option. There's always a vegetarian option. And we've got chicken charcuterie board, which I had, by the way, and I think might have made me sick, or maybe I was just randomly sick. And we've also got a beef entree. Fine. So if you are anywhere past like seat 10, let's say business goes up to like 25, anything past seat 10, they've run out of the beef option, which is fine by me. I never want that. But Bobby sometimes does, and they never have it. And Bobby doesn't care. He'll like get something else. But on this occasion, they ran out of the beef and they ran out of the chicken. And for some reason, there were a lot of elderly passengers in business coming back from Tenerife. You know what the old are like. They don't want to be chilly. And so they just go to Spain whenever they can. Canary Islands, wherever we were. And I think there's something that happens in an older man's life, especially. And I could be wrong about this because I think statistics indicate that older women are just as susceptible. I mean, they don't really know where it comes from, but dementia. I think personally, anecdotally, I think dementia creeps in undiagnosed, and an old man will just start being an asshole. And I've seen it time and time again where his wife accommodates that behavior and softens herself and makes apologies for him and tries to comfort everyone in the path of his fury. But I think older men get this reputation for being like racist or being misogynist or being aggressive or being rude or being angry or being just assholes. I think a lot of them have early dementia because when I see them acting out, it seems like a personality glitch that can only come from a brain disease. And sometimes they look confused when they're doing it, or they behave like toddlers. And I'm not an expert in dementia, but right? Like if you think of it with that lens, are some of these old men just like moving into dementia? And by the way, I've seen very gentle, nonverbal people with dementia too, but like I think something is actually misfiring in their brain because the lovely flight attendant, cabin crew person, flight crew, whatever the new age term for sky waiter is these days. Oh my gosh, I heard Panthea Parker from The Real Housewives of London, which I'm excited is coming back, say to a flight crew person on a flight, oh, my mom used to call you a sky maid. And she'd say, you don't want to be a sky maid. And I was like, whoa, you said that to their face. Whatever. If that was me, I wouldn't mind being called a sky maid. It's a difficult job. You're like a sky police officer. You're like a sky emergency services ambulance person. You're like a sky babysitter. You're a sky therapist. You're a sky bouncer. Like it's all these things being part of a flight crew, which is why I love them so much. And I think they do an incredible job. But the woman came to us. Bobby's like, do you have the beef? No. He's like, okay. Do you have the chicken? She's like, yes, fine. He got that. I got that. We shared it with the kids. And then the row behind us, she had to explain to them that the only option left now, since she gave the last chicken away to Bobby, was asparagus risotto, which was meant to be, I think, a goat's cheese risotto or something, and then was changed to the last minute. They made an announcement like, oh, it's asparagus risotto now. And I don't know if they were traveling together, but the couple behind Bobby and the couple behind me kicked the fuck off. And when I say kick the fuck off, like this man had a tantrum. He was like, don't you dare bring it anywhere near me. I'm disgusted by the smell of asparagus. I can't bear it. I can't bear it. How dare you? To whom shall I complain? Because on the way here, they ran out of my meal, and on the way back, they've run out as well, and you should have enough options for everyone. Now, he was objectively correct. And the flight crew were trying to like talk him down. They were like, sir, I completely empathize. Like you pay a lot for your business class seat and you want to be having an option to eat on a 5-hour flight when you've been in the airport. You know, you plan to have your lunch on the airport. You might get low blood sugar. Like, I get it. They were doing everything they could to be like, and by the way, British Airways, you put this flight crew in a really awkward position. Like, how much would it cost you really to have some extra meals on board? Because now your flight crew are getting yelled at by an 80-year-old man, and what are they supposed to like magic up some beef? Which is what the lead flight crew girl ended up saying to one of the guys, because he like smashed his tray table. He's like, forget it. And they were swearing like, fuck this bullshit, that. I mean, it was wild. And it went on and on and on and on. And it's like, the women were not impressed, but they were trying to contain the situation, like the wives. But these men, like, I loved it. I love any kind of like public fight just because I'm bored, but it was awesome to watch. Like, they were kicking off. And I wasn't going to stand in between just because I was holding Holland, who was asleep. We had Fred and Fenna, who, by the way, were not having tantrums. And eventually the lead flight crew lady was like, listen, it's no point speaking to me about it. There's nothing I can do about it now. Here's where you can complain. I totally agree with you, but you're going to have to watch your language. There are kids. You're going to have to like calm yourself. And the man eventually did, but oh my gosh, it was awesome. And then at the end of the flight, the lady was like, oh, your toddlers were all so well behaved. And I said, yours did pretty well too. Like, imagine smashing the tray. Imagine being in public and having a meltdown about asparagus risotto. And I don't know if it's because these men are like used to getting what they want or they're privileged. It was very like, I don't want a juice bar, mommy. It was bad. And Bobby was witness to that on his side, even more than I was witness to it on my side. And actually on the way there, they ran out of meals too. And we were sat ahead of a young gay couple. And the guy had the same sort of argument. He was like, look, I have food allergies, and the whatever FDA code is that if you don't have an option for me, then you have to give me something else that's suitable, like from economy, for free. And she was like, yeah, all right. So she got him a chicken teriyaki thing from, you know how sometimes you can order in economy and pay for food, allegedly. I wouldn't know, but that's what she did. She was like, yeah, you're right. And he wasn't kicking off at her. He was just like, you're supposed to feed me. And she was like, yeah, all right, I will. The old man could have done it like that. Can you imagine traveling with somebody like that? More aggression news coming next. If you are a mega fan of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives franchise, like I am, that is on Disney, that is on Hulu, that is, Disney in the UK is how we access that. Holy shit. So Mom Talk was a group of moms and wives and women living in Utah, very young, because in that community you get married when you're like 16 to 19. Very beautiful, long hair. They don't drink, although they are allowed like laughing gas and benzos and Botox and stuff. But they just drink like pop, soda pop, flavored big fizzy drinks. And they look beautiful. And they formed a group. And they started posting on TikTok in the pandemic, little dances and things like that. And they gained a lot of notoriety and a huge following, being like sexy moms on TikTok. And I think it goes hand in hand a little bit with this trad wife movement and sourdough. Like, there are busy working women who are thinking, oh, I'd like to have wavy, long blonde hair and keep my body in shape and do dances. And oh my gosh, these girls are young and they have 4 kids and they live in these big houses and their husbands go to work and they all go to church and they're friends. Like, it was an insight into a different world. And then it took a salacious turn when the arguable, not sure if everyone would agree with this, leader of Mom Talk, this young woman, Taylor Frankie Paul, who had 2 kids with her husband, she announced on her socials that they are all swingers and that they suck each other off and they fuck each other's husbands or something's going on. So it was just that perfect storm of like religion and piety and like traditional shapes of families, but then, oh, wait a minute, what? You're all getting off with each other? Like, that is wild. They were having sex parties. And that was a series. Like, series 1 was off the back of that announcement on Disney, on Hulu. And I remember being totally captivated. I was like, what the hell's going on? And even though I watched it and loved it, I didn't really get a clear answer because all of the other moms went quiet. They were kind of cross with this Taylor Frankie for divulging about the sucking each other off. So I didn't really get to the bottom of like what exactly was going on between the couples, but it was something weird. Then we get to know the women, and we see quite quickly that this Taylor Frankie Paul she's got some type of anger management issue. And her parents are disappointed with her. She makes bad choices in her romantic relationships. I don't know who I could compare her to in the UK. I'll say this, and I'll try not to say too much because I don't want it to become like twisted and become a headline. I love Katie Price. I think she has a good heart. I think She was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and who knows what's been going on in her mind and in her heart and in navigating her past traumas, of which there have been many, that have led her to make some of the lifestyle and romantic decisions that she has made. But she's kind of, let's call her a loose cannon. And there are people who stand by her and they think she's a victim in all of this. And there are other people who cite instances of animal abuse and drunk driving, and they're like, no, I don't like her at all. I would say that Taylor Frankie Paul is kind of that type of divisive character amongst her fan base. The people who don't like her and the people who do, they're all like very mixed. She's like an explosive personality. And on the series, we saw her leave her husband and embark upon a new relationship with someone called Dakota. And they had a baby together as well. So now she's a mom of 3, and love her or not, her star continued to rise. She's a compelling character to watch, and her storylines became very forefront. She was arrested for domestic violence before. Everybody knew about that. I think they had to halt production of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives at one point while investigations were underway about her behavior, but like it was all kind of a mess, and I never looked at like the legal files. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if her domestic abuse was reactionary, which some are saying it was. I don't know if she was like the only instigator, perpetrator, whatever. Domestic abuse is always wrong. And I think everyone is entitled to safety in their life and in their relationship. I haven't looked into it enough. Suffice to say, she's got a spicy schedule going on. So then she's chosen to become the new Bachelorette on the hit, very family franchise on ABC in America of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Now, this launched when I was young. They will choose a very eligible man and surround him in a house with eligible women, and through different dates and goings on, they will whittle the women down to one. And I think the first season of The Bachelor, I remember it was Trista and Ryan. Off the top of my head, I remember that. The whole world was totally invested. And those two are married with kids even today. They've stayed together. It was like a beautiful love story. But just like every reality TV franchise, it loses its way after tens of series where there are people who come on because they want to be famous and people who have ulterior motives, Then they started having bachelorettes. They started having famous bachelorettes because at the beginning, this Trista and Ryan, neither one of them was famous. They became famous through the show. The Bachelor would always be, an aspirational character, usually handsome and rich, but not famous. And then they had to up the ante. So now we have this Taylor Frankie Paul, formerly of sucking off her friends' husbands, I guess, formerly of domestic abuse charges, star of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, star of TikTok. She's her own personal brand. Now she's the Bachelorette. This is huge. So they filmed the entire series. It was just about to come out, like in a couple days, I think maybe tonight. And ABC have decided to pull it because even though they already knew she'd been arrested for historical domestic assault and there were investigations, a video surfaced, and a video, like they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Now everyone on the internet has seen Taylor Frankie Paul like throwing metal chairs at her ex, and he's a dodgy character, let me just say. I don't know what's going on, like I said before, but he's not right. And he's filming her doing it, and her daughter was in the room for this, which is totally unacceptable. And so ABC have made, in my opinion, the right decision because and this is Disney. Her show is on fucking Disney. And you've got one of the leads chucking aluminum chairs while her daughter is present. It's a bad, very sad scene for everyone. And some of the contributors on The Bachelorette, some of the boys who are invited on to be her potential suitors are making noises about potentially suing the network for not doing their due diligence in hiring their star and putting them in a dangerous position as well. Like, it's a whole big mess. And it is kind of a legal quandary because even like TV in America is huge. And that is a huge network, a great big franchise. It feels mad that they would take a risk on someone like that, knowing what they know about her. Like, yes, the videos come out, but when you hire someone to front your series, they need insurance. Like, how did they get insurance to hire Taylor Frankie Paul when she's had the history of domestic abuse and had the really wild history that she's had? Tumultuous is the word I'm looking for. There's me and still not knowing words in my postpartum sleep-deprived state. I don't see why an insurance company would sign off on someone like that. They'd look at her history and be like, no. Also, the duty of care, like psychologists, people on the show who have to clear everyone to say that they're fit to participate, surely they would look at it and be like, no. Because we've had that on shows before where we do involve the general public. They have to be vetted 1,000 different ways to make sure that they don't have like a face tattoo with a Nazi symbol that we didn't look at closely enough. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have any skeletons like that in your closet. And with Taylor Frankie Paul, these were not skeletons. These were like actual violent charges. Of course it was going to happen again, or of course a video was going to surface. Like, it was a huge gamble. And from a really shallow perspective, like, I care about TV and entertainment. I care that the landscape of television has changed so much in the last few years. And advertisers are putting their investment elsewhere. And the online sphere has become so much bigger than channels now. Like, kind of only older people are watching channels. Like, I want TV that is made to be successful. I have yet to watch Saturday Night Live UK. It aired on Saturday night on Sky. You can access it through Now TV if you like. But that's a show that I would love to see do well. I think it'd be good for comedy. Tina Fey was the host. Like, I think that'd be amazing if it does well. Because every time a show like Celebrity Traders or LOL on Amazon Prime does well, everyone in the comedy industry is like, oh, yes. Like, the channels and the advertisers will see that it's still worth investing your money in this medium. Well, how much money would it have cost to film the entire series of The Bachelorette? And now they've had to pull it. It will never air, I don't think. They've had to pull it because of this. The people, the money wasted, the jobs lost. Now, still, I think it's the right thing to do because you cannot have a domestic abuser on a show like this, or an alleged domestic abuser. A video like that is really traumatic for a lot of people to watch, really triggering, like completely unequivocally unacceptable. But I mean, I'm just sad that I don't know if the network will recover from something like this. Like, can't they use AI to superimpose like a different Mom Talk person? Whitney from Mom Talk did really well on Dancing with the Stars. Who made that call? Whoever it is fired now. Taylor Frankie Paul. I mean, but I guess TV channels are becoming slightly desperate again because you can watch her any day of the week on her social channels and she has a big following. So they think, well, we've got to put someone like that on our TV channel and get viewers, to come off their phones and watch television again. And you do something like that and then you're toasted. So yeah, although the arrest was public knowledge, the visual evidence of the assault, specifically a chair hitting the floor near her child, was deemed too toxic for the, quote, family-friendly image of the Bachelor franchise. The fact that a new domestic assault investigation was opened in February 2026 suggested a pattern of behavior rather than a one-time mistake, making it impossible for the network to market Taylor Frankie Paul as a woman looking for a healthy new start. Reports surfaced that several contestants from the season felt betrayed and unsafe after learning the full extent of the 2023 incident. Some have reportedly considered legal action against ABC for failing to vet the lead properly. Major advertisers reportedly threatened to pull out once the video went viral, leading Disney to issue a statement saying they would not move forward with the season to focus on supporting the family. As of late March 2026, i.e. now, the season is effectively shelved and unlikely to ever air. Dakota Mortison has been granted temporary custody of their son, and Taylor's first husband has reportedly filed for a restraining order and full custody of their two older children following release of the video. And I don't know about this first husband, but I hate that this baby's now in Dakota's custody because I don't know anything about him, but he seems like he's not all there either. I don't think either of them are probably safe people. And it fucking breaks my heart anytime I think a child is not being looked after to the standard that my children are looked after. Like, it is so hard to keep kids happy all day, and not everyone can do that, but the least you can do is have them feeling like supported and safe and like loved and nurtured and not afraid that someone's gonna throw a goddamn chair. Oh God, Justin Timberlake's video, his arrest footage on the body cam of when he had the drunk driving charge was released. And I know he tried to, or I read allegedly, that his team tried to have it block its release. And when it came out, I hadn't seen it, but Bobby had, and he said, it's not even that bad. I don't know, like, what the big deal is in blocking its release. Like, he's very nice in the video and personable, and, you know, he seems to be disappointed in himself, but it is still eggy. Like, what? It's crazy that everything is filmed now. Your worst moments, both in the case of Taylor, Frankie, Paul, and Justin Timberlake, like, your worst moments, whether you're a celebrity or not, someone has video footage of that on their phone, or you do, or like you got drunk and you decided to do a fucking TikTok live, and people just need to accept that we are in a big brother society and you need to behave yourself 24 hours a day. And I behave myself 24 hours a day, but not for the fear of being filmed. My worst moments, I purposely record and film and publish on this podcast. But poor Justin Timberlake, now, not that anyone really deserves that much sympathy when they are drunk driving, endangering the lives of others, but people have problems, right? So the police officer pulls him over and he's like, oh, you were kind of bobbing and weaving over the road. Is this your car? He's like, no, it's a rental. He's like, okay, what are you in town for? And he goes, well, it's difficult to explain. And the officer's like, how so? He's like, it's my world tour. And the officer's like, your world tour of what? And he's like, oh, I am Justin Timberlake. And the officer's like, you are Justin Timberlake. He's like, yeah. And the officer goes, oh, I'm going to need to see some ID. And then it cuts to the sobriety test on the side of the road. And Justin, like, is trying his best, but you can see he's drunk. It sucks being drunk because you never think you're drunk when you're drunk, which is why you have to make the decision not to drive well before you get drunk. I haven't been drunk in a long time, but times that I have, I could be self-convinced that I'm like a barrister. I could do anything when I'm drunk. Oh yeah, I could definitely fly to the moon. I could do gymnastics. Like, I could drive. Thankfully, I've never driven drunk, but I see how people do it. I can see that if you're a drunk person who just has absolute faith in yourself, as soon as you get tipsy, you could fly a plane. So he's out there like touching his nose and doing the steps and counting 10 Mississippi. And he goes, these are really hard tests. And they're like, yeah, if you are wasted. It just sucks that that's out there. And I would encourage you not to watch it because, why watch this man at his worst? Okay, here's the first email of the day. Catherine, deep fake scandal abroad. I've been listening to your podcast from Germany for over 3 years, and yesterday a scandal broke the news. And since I don't know if this gets any coverage in the UK, I thought I would tell you about it so you could tell them about it. German actress and presenter Julian Fernandez made serious public allegations against her ex-husband, Christian Ullman. She claims that, reportedly, for over a decade, Mr. Ullman secretly created fake online profiles using her identity. She herself claims to have never been active on socials, so he used that to his advantage. He allegedly contacted men, engaged in sexual conversations, and shared explicit content pretending to be her. Some of the material reportedly included pornographic images or videos, including AI-generated deepfake content that resembled her. Fernandez describes this as a form of virtual R-word, grape. I mean, what is the difference between saying grape or the actual word? Like, I'm trying to be sensitive, but Louis C.K. has a bit about how he's like, well, now I just made you say it in your head, so what's the difference? But I'm trying my best. And digital abuse, saying it had severe psychological consequences for her, of course. From what I know about the legal system is that this can only be charged as a civil offense. Any wrongdoing dating back more than 5 years cannot be charged. What would happen in the UK if something like this came to light? Are your laws up to date on issues like this? I feel like we're living in that dark ages when it comes to online protection. It makes me sad and angry, and the whole nation is now up on their feet. All the best to you and your family. Thank you for that email. Well, we are absolutely, and in government, in chambers, what was I going to say? In legislation, whatever, they're having conversations about how to handle the world of AI and deepfakes and to prevent this online abuse from happening that you describe. And it will take, unfortunately, instances like this one for every government to catch up, for the German government to be like, oh no, I don't know your accent, but yeah, this is sick. What the hell is wrong with men? I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to improve my outlook, but I hear about this alleged Christian Ullman who makes actual deepfakes of his own wife and uses her image. What was he, like, extorting men or just getting off on having sexual conversations with them? Like, either way, what the fuck? And yeah, we need to be protected against this. And wow. And thank you for your email. Oh, here's an insight for my demented mind about Shia LaBeouf. Last week I said I thought he dated a barmaid, and someone's trying to help me out. Catherine, I want to clarify your story about Shia LaBeouf. He did, in fact, have a little hustle and bustle in a South London pub some years ago. His girlfriend's mother, I believe this is Mia Cross's mother, owned or managed the Hobgoblin in New Cross, now the Rose, near Goldsmiths University. And a student one night stole his hat, which led to a fight and him headbutting the guy. I just thought I would share, as I lived there at the time. It was obviously big local news. What is wrong with me? Like, how do I go from Shia LaBeouf's girlfriend's mother maybe owned a pub and then a student stole his hat and he headbutted that student, to me being like, remember when he had a baby with the barmaid? Like, this is the danger of gossip. Here is an email about co-parenting. Catherine, I'm a day one listener of the podcast and I love the sporadicity of it all. I really need the help of you and your listeners. I've tried to change some of the details and keep it short. I was with my ex-partner for a long time before we decided to have kids, mostly to support each other's careers and gain stability. When we got married, okay, I'm not gonna give that detail just in case. We now have a toddler and a 3-month-old. I had serious birth trauma with my first, which led to severe depression, anxiety, and PTSD, in which I was seeing a therapist during my second pregnancy. My ex was a temporary stay-at-home dad while he was in between careers, as it was a long process to start his new career. I was working full-time alongside having severe hyperemesis during pregnancy. I never know how to say that word. Hyperemesis gravidum, the one where you're puking all the time. And I didn't realize, I probably realized through this podcast actually, how serious that is. Like, you can be puking. Sorry if anybody has, I'm going to just talk about vomit for the next 20 seconds. You can be so sick that you are at risk of choking and you have to be put into a coma. I read that. People are so sick that they want to die. People are so sick that they have terminations because they're like, I'm going to die. I can't do this. And they're sick the whole way through. So that is a thing. It's not just like morning sickness. Ultimately, he thought he was doing too much and I was lazy. Ended up emotionally cheating in another country while I was pregnant. Oh, hell no. This is where I need help. We're still currently living together until our house sells, and we're frequently having conversations and arguments with regards to the children. I'm their primary caregiver now as I'm on maternity leave. Now, I really do think he's great with the toddler, and I've pulled him up on how he shows no effort with the baby. Due to everything that happened and some issues in his childhood, I've said they shouldn't be around a certain family member who was also on this cheating holiday. He also said that when he moves out, I guess in the future, you mean, he'll be living with a new male friend of 3 months, which I don't feel comfortable with having the kids sleep over there. No, you shouldn't. He takes all of this as an attack on him when I'm just thinking of the children's safety. To add to it, his therapist said I'm being emotionally abusive by saying he should be doing more with the kids when I genuinely think he should, and too controlling for advocating for their safety. Apparently, I've taken it to an extreme by saying they shouldn't be around abusive people. The therapist said when he has them, I have no say who the kids are left with or who sees them. I disagree. I think we should both have a say who the children live with and who they are around. Am I being too controlling? Is there anyone who can give me legal advice on this? Unfortunately, being on maternity leave, I can't afford a solicitor at the moment. So I will say for anyone listening, whatever you think of AI, I've done ads for Gemini before. I am not currently under any sponsorship with them, but I do love my Gemini app. Do I use it to make photos and videos and use gallons of water? I don't, but I do ask it questions, and it can't give you legal advice, but if you need legal advice, it can point you in directions of other articles and, like you are entitled to access the law, like you can read it. So a few things about his therapist. She is right that if you have a custody arrangement where they're with you sometimes and with him sometimes, you don't have a say really on who they're around unless you can prove and get a different, addendum to your custody agreement that that person is a danger. So that is correct. But the other thing I would say about him having a therapist is his therapist and his friends and his family and anybody he speaks to about you only gets information from him. So it'll be his truth, his narrative. Anyone he talks to is going to think you're a bitch because that's how he's going to tell it. Do you think he honestly goes to his therapist and says, well, she had suffered from hyperemesis gravidum during pregnancy and she worked full time and I was sat at home but calling her a selfish bitch and cheating on her? Like, he doesn't have that level of accountability or self-awareness, presumably. Like, most people don't. Most people go to the therapist as the victim and he'll be saying, well, she wants to do this and she wants to do that and she's so mean and I've done everything I could. So that's the trouble with therapy. And I've said it before, you can get a good therapist who's a match that can hold you accountable. Like, that's why I love Pam, is she doesn't always tell me that I'm right. And she knows that our shared goal is not just for me to feel good about myself, but for my life to be good. And if you want to have a good, balanced life and a good future, then sometimes you need to correct yourself or be corrected. But again, a good therapist, getting to know him, might have a plan to do that in the future, but might identify him as being too soft for that now. Like, it's no good to anyone if he goes to therapy and she says, how dare you call your wife lazy when she was risking her life to create a legacy for you and was sick and was working full time, and fuck you for this and you're disgusting for cheating. He'll just never go back there. So, yeah, whatever he says, my therapist says, be like, okay, you're not there in those sessions, so you don't know what he's saying to make his therapist say that. Look, it's awful having a divorce. I can't imagine what it's like. I've split from someone when we had a child, but we weren't married, and that was difficult enough. You have been with this person for a long time. And the truth of the matter is, like, you just didn't make it as a couple. You don't respect each other anymore. You don't love each other anymore. And kids throw everything up into the wind, and sometimes that's the result. And I think that I would say to anyone in this position, the best thing you can do, what I would do, is I would kind of prioritize therapy over legal advice. I'd get all the legal stuff I could online for free if money was an issue. Obviously, if it's not, it's good to protect yourself with a solicitor, but lawyers get rich in divorce and the kids lose out. Like, if in a perfect world, you should be able to mediate and leave as much resources to your children and to each other so you're not left destitute after a divorce in a much worse position. I would use my power of reasonable, calm serenity to make this go as smoothly as it could. Don't get into arguments with him about who's right, who's a bitch, who's controlling, who's not right, because it doesn't matter anymore. If you have really chosen to split, then just take it on the chin. Be like, fine, I'm the villain. Let's split. Fine, I'm the villain. Like, get out. If you really feel like your child is in danger around some of these people, because yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't want my child around some random man living with my ex that he's known for 3 months. You would have to go to a judge and get an addendum to your custody agreement and prove that somehow. And that's one of the many reasons why people stay in relationships, because when you're not in a relationship anymore, you're not with your children all the time. So keep your head down. It's going to be a really hard year. Try to get through this divorce. Fight for only the things that really, 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 really matter a lot, and try to do it in a way that does not offend him, only because that's going to make it harder for you. And I'm sorry that you're going through this and it's shit. Oh yes, the Manosphere disappointment emails. Catherine, of course I'm writing to you about the Manosphere episode. I look forward to your podcast every week. My God, though, girl. Of course people are going to be mad about your Manosphere episode. For me, it's disappointment and disengagement. Us millennials, we millennials, are at a point in life where we've lived through some pretty tough world events that have ultimately affected the quality of life for many. people our generation and beyond. We are at the point of our ultimate transition into roles of influence in our careers as we climb the ladder, smash glass ceilings, and disrupt the ivory tower, especially as women. We are the mothers of our children if we choose to be, if not, hopefully good human beings that want to leave the world a better place than when we entered it. I, like you, am a woman of influence in my career and a mother, and I'm installing what I hope is morality, fairness, knowledge, kindness, and of course, some hard realities. When you speak about the good things said by those red pill gronks, people hear that. You are supportive of them in a way. If you're willing to say that, knowing people will pick up on it, are you just like them? Do you think like them, even just a little bit? The answer is obviously yes. The manosphere is a big problem and clearly damaging. Everyone has a right to exist and form their own informed opinions. But when we know vulnerable young men are joining this school of thought, these influencers in the manosphere are no different to an underground terrorist cell. We should be holding these people accountable for their actions, not celebrating their ignorance. I know you won't likely even read this, as it doesn't appear to be your vibe, but nonetheless, I feel better about getting my thoughts out in the universe, which I'm trying to do more. And I like that you're getting your thoughts out in the universe. And my vibe is absolutely to hear from everyone, and I don't mind at all when people disagree with me. Unfortunately, though, I do like to, when I am ingesting media, look at the full picture. I want to know what points I agree with, and I want to know what points I disagree with, because otherwise I think it's more interesting for me to try to understand why people like these guys at all. And I think it would be good if moving forward, like what if we could have some influencers take away from the Andrew Tate audience because they're hitting the points that resonate with these men? Could we have influencers who are like, all right, boys, you get up in the morning, you have no value. That's another thing people really didn't like that I said. I'm like, yeah, you're born with no value. They're like, my children are born with inherent value. Okay, yes, of course, I believe my children also have value and people have value beyond monetary worth. But I'm trying to get inside of the mind of a young person. Like they have value. Their heart is full of kindness. Or like Fenna says, my heart is full of naughtiness. They have value, but they want to create tangible monetary value in a capitalist society. They want that. So I believe in the message that it is down to them to try to graft it for themselves. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but certainly no one's going to hand it to them. Could we have an influencer who says that? Who says like, okay, if this is what you want, you got to get out of bed, you got to work out, you got to keep your mental health sharp. You've got to, of course, like talk about your feelings and have softness, but also have an element of resilience that lets you reach for the stars. Like you have that. You've just said you're a woman of influence in your career. You're a mother. You're trying to instill all these things. Like you have probably had some really tough obstacles that you needed resilience to overcome. And I would like an influencer or a manosphere group of influencers who don't do the toxic shit. Of course, I don't like the toxic shit, but I think it is worth identifying the stuff about these guys that if you tweaked it a bit, I could get on board with. And maybe it's my fault for not articulating myself that way. And you're fully within your right to disagree with me. And I'm totally not offended. You sound like a great person. Oh gosh, this lady's really pissed. En bref, I'm tapping out. The title is Thank You and Goodbye. Catherine, I've loved you and your comedy for years now, and Telling Everybody Everything has been one of my favorite podcasts since its inception, but I finished listening to your and Bobby's discussion of Manosphere and promptly unfollowed the show. I won't be tuning back in again, nor will I be returning for your live shows or TV appearances. That you spent more time earnestly praising HS Tiki Talkie's work ethic than discussing the very real danger these men put women in was just jaw-dropping, and I was horrified to hear how blithely you've been happily nibbling away on the red pill. Your take on the whole thing was shit, and if I'm being frank, so is every contribution your husband has ever made to the show. It's disappointing, and I finally saw me reach tipping point with the project, something I've been edging towards ever since you started regularly platforming Bobby and his inarticulate spouting of close-minded macho nonsense. I didn't expect this email to reach, let alone impact you, but perhaps your producer will see it and it will land for a moment. I don't have a producer. Why do you think I have a producer? Several of my friendship group have also given up on this podcast due to this recent change, and I know we're not in isolation. Be better, Catherine. Take the microphone away from Bobby. You have a diminishing audience and you're letting them down badly. And if that's your position, can I recommend some like ultra will never let you down or disagree with you super feminist podcast like The Guilty Feminist? That's a really good one. I think Sarah Pascoe always says the right thing. I love her. Although she jokes in her tour show, she says, I'm not a feminist, but she's joking. And someone took that very, very literally and was mad. Look, I don't know what you mean by time. That's the only thing I would say. Like, you spent more time talking about the good things than the time you spent talking about how they're a danger to women. But I did say that misogyny creates an environment that poses very real physical danger to women. And in my work, I think if you tick up all the time that I spend talking about, I don't know, macho things in your words, or like red pill things, or anything good about men, anything redeeming about that entire gender versus the dangers that I talk about versus the inequality that I talk about. I mean, I love that someone in the world thinks that I prioritize like men and their achievements over women, because by and large, my audience would say exactly the opposite, that I'm always mean about men, that I'm unfair to men, that I hate men. I think that all killers and dangerous people, apart from a select few, are men. I think women and minorities are grossly disenfranchised in our society. But then why not someone like me to be like, let's get into this and see what we like about this guy. What could be good? But that's fine. Love it. Love the email. Here's some thoughts from New Zealand. Oh, someone sent me a video. Catherine, my thoughts are in the video attached. Do you think you missed the point? Louis could have easily made a hit piece, or at least presented more of a critical perspective, as he has in the past with the Westboro Baptist Church, for example, but he didn't. So why do you think that is? Watch my vid and let me know. I mean, why send a video? Because I can't really use it on the podcast. I'm going to watch it and be right back. Oh my gosh, I wish I could share that video. I probably should. It seems like I have her consent to. She's so articulate and has tomato plants and has such a nice accent. I will. I'll just share it. I don't think she minds, or she wouldn't have sent me the video, because I could summarize it, but here you go.
The end, when you said that there are feminists who accuse you of having been convinced and now you are being an agent of the far right, I don't necessarily agree with them, but I think the documentary got you. Because surely Louis' intention for not making it a hit piece was for us as the viewers who have never been part of that online world to experience what it is to be part of that online world. And you've experienced it and you didn't hate it. You were impressed by a lot of the aspects that you saw on this documentary. And of course disgusted by a lot of them too, but you don't think it's a bad. Your ultimate conclusion wasn't the Manosphere is bad. Your ultimate conclusion was, yeah, I think there's some really good things going on there. And there's some yucky stuff too. Like, we're glossing over the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Like, oh, we just chucked them in there. No, that was the point. That was the point of the documentary. Yes, this Manosphere stuff is happening, but this is what these men are. Detached from reality, conspiracy theorists, unwell. But your experience of the documentary was like, oh, there's quite a lot of good stuff going on here. That's what these young men and boys are experiencing online. There's a lot of good stuff going on here, and I can easily gloss over the nasty stuff. So when these feminists say that you're being used as an agent for the far right, I don't agree with them, but I see their perspective. And I think you missed the point that Louis was trying to make. Yeah, I did, because yes, you're agreeing with a lot of the stuff they're saying, but you're not analysing why you're agreeing with it, or thinking, is it okay that I agree with it, or what does that mean? So anyway, I really like your podcast. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
So I think my main conclusion that I'm taking away from all of this feedback, which I appreciate, which I love, I always appreciate being a catalyst for conversation, even, when the feedback is not great for me, is that I am not a 15-year-old boy on the internet who has a sponge little mind and who's making decisions about the world and who's got all this neuroplasty and can take stuff in and filter out the bad. Like, I am a hardened over 40s feminist who is coming from a position of men are trash. So it's a very safe space for me to be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, because if I hear stuff about a work ethic, I'm going to say, oh yeah, that's good. Obviously, I know that the takeaway from this, and I mentioned the anti-Semitism, which is wholly unacceptable, as well as the misogyny and the racism. But I think you're right in that giving any positive assessment of these things is discounting the fact that, like, not everybody listening to it has the same filtration system that I have. Like, there's no risk that I'm going to be like, the Manosphere is great. And that wasn't my takeaway from it, by the way. I just was like, some of these elements I like for young people, and then the rest are complete trash. But like, I feel like I'm in a safe space to give compliments because I already think they're trash. Do you know what I mean? And maybe I lost sight of the fact that a lot of young people listening especially won't be as like hardened as I am, and they will be so much more susceptible. I still do think it's a good idea to analyze like the bits of it that maybe could exist in a better influencer that didn't have all of the toxicity. Yes, of course. But ultimately, like, yeah, maybe I missed the point of the documentary. I mean, I already subscribed to the point of the documentary before I watched the documentary. That's what I'm trying to say. And maybe I didn't articulate that enough on the podcast, but that was a great accent. And thank you for your video. Videos are interesting. Wouldn't we like to hear other people on the show? One more Manosphere email, and then we'll go. Catherine, I've just listened to your podcast take on Louis Theroux's Manosphere documentary. I think the key point that you've missed is that these YouTubers are influencers. There are thousands of them, and their viewpoints are dangerous to young girls. I did say that. Whilst you may be intelligent and educated enough to understand the nuance or take some information from them and not others, they're being watched by young boys all over the world who take their word as gospel. They may not believe what they're saying, but young boys will. Oh, you may not believe what they're saying, or they may not, the influencers may not believe what they're saying, but young boys will and will treat girls appropriately. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and yesterday they had education in school around consent and relationships by a specialist teacher who came into the school to work with them. Yet the boys in that class could be going home watching the likes of Andrew Tate or HS Tiki-Taki doing things like filming girls without consent, belittling them, and slut-shaming. Who are they going to believe, and who will they want to emulate? The middle-aged teacher in a suit or the guy in Miami with a Lamborghini? The scale of the problem and the amount of their influence is absolutely massive, and I believe it will absolutely trickle down to the attitudes of young boys and how they treat young girls all over the world. I do appreciate you try to see the good in people, but I think their influence and the effect of it is a key point that you missed. Well, yeah, I guess so, guys. No, I did say, though, I think sometimes, this is the other thing that I don't have, is I think sometimes when you get angry, which ultimately I am about this entire demographic of person and this movement on socials. Of course I'm angry about it. Of course I hate it. I think sometimes when you get angry, you fixate on the thing that made you angry, and then maybe you forget about the other stuff. And I thought I did qualify all of this, but maybe not, enough. And I will take that on board next time. Gosh. Sorry, guys. Okay. Thank you for listening to another episode, or except for the one who's not listening. But everybody else, thank you for listening to another episode of Telling Everybody Everything. Please look after each other. What have I got to tell you about? Well, nope. I was on Mocked Week yesterday. That's not relevant today. What else am I doing this week? Well, just really season 3 of What's My Age Again, the podcast that just talks about biological age and interviews a host of incredible celebrities. You can listen to that now wherever you get your podcasts. Episode 1 with Jimmy Carr is out, and this week we'll have a new episode. Who will it be? Vogue Williams? Ruby Wax? You never know. See you soon.